This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and these are the Lenovo Yoga C940 14-inch. So we obviously have both colors here to show you, and we have both the full HD and the 4K display. So the C940 is the refresh of Lenovo's popular Yoga 360-degree convertible hinge laptop. 14-inch display. We have Intel 10th generation Ice Lake CPUs with Intel Iris graphics on board. A little thinner, a little lighter. It already was thin and light though, hey. And we have a garaged pen, which means the pen fits into a little silo and is rechargeable there, so hey, you won't lose it. Other neat stuff, we're going to look at it now. So the Yoga C940 14-inch is obviously a 14-inch Ultrabook. There is a C940 15-inch. Confusing. Why didn't they call that the C950, right? And that one goes up against the Dell XPS 15. It has 45-watt CPUs. It has NVIDIA GTX 1650 graphics. Very different kind of machine, sort of that mobile workstation thing going on. So this one, the straight Ultrabook, goes up against the Dell XPS 13 2-in-1, the HP Spectre X360 13-inch, those sorts of laptops. We have Intel Ice Lake 10th Gen CPUs inside, Core i5 and Core i7 available. Both of ours are the Core i7 model. The Core i5 has Intel Iris graphics, just like the Core i7. It's the G4 version of the CPU, for those of you who keep track of those technical specifications. The Soundbar, which is one of the neat things about the Yoga series, is redesigned. It's a one-piece bar now, so there's a soundbar basically between the keyboard area and the display, so music fires at you, and it rotates, so even if you put it in a different position, like tent mode or stand mode, you get the idea. You'll still hear audio coming at you, and there are two additional 2-watt speakers. There are 4 2-watt speakers total that are down firing as well. So as you might guess, audio is better than average for an Ultrabook. This is not going to replace your home stereo system, but it's not going to sound kind of tinny like most laptops do. It sounds pretty decent. Some bass, some stereo separation. You get the idea. So for displays, there are 2 display options. We have the full HD IPS and the 4K IPS. There's no OLED option for this. Samsung is the only one making laptop OLED panels right now. They don't even make a 14-inch, so there goes that one. But I don't mind that, because there's a lot to be said for IPS, including pretty good battery life and whites that are fairly white. And we'll talk about the display metrics of both of those in detail a little bit later, but suffice to say they're both quite good. But my one complaint is very glossy, plenty of glare, off angle, particularly on the full HD model, because it's not quite as bright. You'll notice an almost milky look to it, off angle only, so I wish they would cut down a bit on that. So it's a very nice keyboard, good key travel for a thin Ultrabook, nice tactile feel. It's very good. This has a Webcam AES pen, and you can use the included pen, which is kind of on the small side, but the good news is it's rechargeable and has a silo to live in, so you won't lose it. Or you can use a bigger Lenovo ThinkPad Active pen, for example. Any Webcam AES pen is going to work for this. I like it quite well. It's better than HP's implementation of N-Trig Active Pen technology in terms of fluidity of pressure and less line jitter. I find if you're thinking about using this for art, it's more enjoyable. It's you know, it's competing pretty well with the Surface Pro line, which has a very good N-Trig pen implementation. So it's not just that N-Trig's bad, but Webcam AES is consistently pretty good. And it's also the technology that Dell uses. Connectivity is pretty good on this. We have 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, 40 gigabit per second, and a USB-A 3.1 Gen 2 port. So it's nice to have that so-called legacy USB-A port, so you don't have to get dongles right away just to use something like a USB mouse. You get the idea. And of course, there is a headphone jack on this too. So that compares similarly to the HP Spectre X360 13-inch, and hey, the Dell only has USB-C ports / Thunderbolt 3, so yay, we have USB-A. We have Wi-Fi 6 on board as well, a fingerprint scanner, and the usual unibody aluminum design with a removable bottom panel, which we'll show you so you can check out the internals. RAM, you can get it up to 16 gigs, and it's low-powered DDR4 RAM. It is soldered on board, so get it with the amount that you want. Can't upgrade it afterwards. You have an M.2 NVMe SSD that is upgradable. Wi-Fi is soldered on. We'll show you again those internals. And there's a 60 watt-hour battery, and it comes with a 65-watt fast charger. Battery life is going to vary depending on which resolution you choose, which is part of the reason why Lenovo sent us both review loaners so we could experience battery life on both of them. And honestly, the 4K IPS display isn't bad. It does do better than OLED in general for battery life, and I was able to get 7 to 8 hours with 150 nits of brightness in light productivity and streaming video use, and add about 3 hours on, 2 to 3 hours for the full HD model. So yeah, full HD isn't that bad, actually, given the fact that the screen isn't that huge, and it will save you on battery. Now, speaking of those displays, Lenovo says that the full HD model is 400 nits and the 4K display is 500 nits with an HDR 400 rating on it. And both displays are actually quite pleasing, other than the glare that I complained about. The full HD model doesn't have quite as wide a color gamut, but really it's not a bad looking display. It's your typical premium Ultrabook with full sRGB coverage and about 75% of Adobe RGB. The rest of the metrics on it are a little bit weirder, but in terms of the color accuracy, it wasn't that bad overall. The 4K display, though, hitting about 85% of Adobe RGB is pretty impressive. And for some reason, we couldn't get a color accuracy graph on that. Our colorimeter got confused by the display, but eyeballing it and looking at the other metrics that the colorimeter measured, it is quite good. So if you're a serious photo and video editor, you probably want that 4K display and that wider color gamut for seeing more detail on screen with less zooming and a little bit more color. You get the idea. It's certainly prettier to look at, but the full HD is not a terrible offering either. In terms of performance, it's good. It's an Intel 10th generation CPU, quad core, whether you go with Core i5 or the Core i7. It's an incremental improvement in terms of CPU performance from Intel 8th generation 15-watt Ultrabook CPUs. Remember, there was no 9th gen for 15-watt Ultrabook CPUs. We just jumped. But the Intel Iris Plus graphics does add some punch, and you'll notice it even if you're doing something like using Photoshop, and certainly it'll let you play some casual and older games that you really didn't find playable before with regular Intel HD graphics. So that's the, pardon the pun, plus there. Now, this has performance modes on it. By default, it's on Lenovo Vantage's settings version of the balance mode. If you put it in high performance mode, it will use more power, and it will TDP up from that 15 watts to 25 and sometimes even 40 watts. So you can get some more performance out of it. Of course, you'll get more heat and you'll get more noise. There are 2 fans here, but generally speaking, it does not get noisy, and it's really well managed in terms of how hot it gets to the touch. The bottom, for example, doesn't get burning hot. Nice. They did a very good job of cooling here, and I really didn't see any egregious thermal throttling, pretty much in line with what you would expect from an Ultrabook these days. It's good stuff. They've done a nice job. Lastly, for those of us who are paranoid about webcams, well, it does have a privacy switch. It's really hard to see. It's right, the little piece of plastic that you can grab onto at the top edge of the display bezel, and that will actually slide a door over the webcam, so you are definitely safe there. Nobody can see what you're up to in the bedroom or anywhere else. To get inside, well, the good news is you've got 4 Torx T4, not T5 screws that are visible, and you remove those, but then, aha, there's more. You have to, a la HP Spectre, pull off this strip. Now, happily, it comes off pretty easily, and there are these little plastic tines that keep it in place, so you're not reliant on the adhesive, which did stay in place. So yank that off, start from a corner, pull it up, pop it out, and then there's going to be Phillips head screws here, 3 of them hiding, so you're going to have to unscrew those, and then it's pretty easy to take it off. So remove the metal bottom cover, and here's our battery, taking up most of the space. As per usual, the bottom firing speakers are here. Again, this has 4 2-watt speakers, 2 in the soundbar, 2 here. Our little fans for cooling. It's nice to see dual fans in an Ultrabook with integrated graphics, so good that. Here's our soldered Wi-Fi card. This is the M.2 SSD. It is upgradable. You can remove that, so that's good. Should you ever have data loss, at least you can take the SSD out, say, if the rest of the laptop, well, dies on you. And RAM is soldered on board, so order it with the amount that you want because you can't upgrade it afterwards. So that's a Lenovo Yoga C940, both colors, both resolutions. So has Lenovo done a good job? Yes, they have. It's really getting hard to pick a good convertible now because all of the offerings on the market from the major manufacturers are so strong. But what Lenovo brings to the table here is obviously a little bit bigger display. Instead of the usual 13.3 inches, you do get 14 inches. The garaged pen is a nice touch, and a keyboard that's really comfy. That one goes up against Dell because their XPS 13 2-in-1 maglev keyboard is, you know, a little weird, a little short travel. There you have it. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos and hit that notification bell.